All right, guys. So season 8 of Alone is going to come out this week, or already came out if you're watching this in the future. And it's always more fun when you try to make some predictions about the season, and then it puts a little skin in the game, makes it a little more fun when you watch it. I went through all the contestant profiles, and I figured I would share my thoughts, and at the end I'll give you my guess. It really comes down to being a 10% guess about who might win. Um, but I encourage you to do the same. Read over the profiles and make a guess. It'll just make it more fun to watch. Now, so anyway, they're doing it up in Choco Lake in British Columbia, which is similar-ish to Vancouver Island. It'll be kind of a wet, probably cool environment. So that'll be interesting. There's a lot of bears and fish to be had, and I don't know, maybe deer and stuff. I'm not sure what the regulations are this season, but I know it's not just a free-for-all shoot. Anything you can see, I doubt you could hunt grizzly bears, for example. But anyway, so I'll get on to, let's see, I wrote a list. I looked over the thing of the contestants this year. There's a few of them that I'm familiar with ahead of time, and I'll talk to you about those people when we get to them. But first in the line was Coulter Barnes, and he seems like a big dude, which is always nice, and also spent a lot of time in Alaska living out on an island or something up there, which is really good preparation for a thing like Alone. I don't really know what his situation up there exactly was, but when you live say on an island in Alaska, or even like Roland did last year, just in the bush in Alaska by yourself, or like I did in Siberia, you end up getting in a situation that prepares you well for Alone, because you're not a primitive skills like you're not specifically aiming for primitive skills. What you're doing is using everything you have, but that's oftentimes limited because things that require a lot of technology break or require batteries, or you can't really use them. So in the bush, so you end up distilling down what you're using to stuff that never breaks. So like you'll end up trying to snare food, or trying to just requires a lot of ingenuity, but it's not necessarily a self-imposed, restriction, which with Alone and the gear list that you get, I think that's kind of the ideal preparation, because you you don't necessarily have to make stone tools or make your own cordage or anything like that. You are given a fairly useful set of basic tools that you now don't have to make, cordage, an axe, etc., sleeping bag. So it all comes down to using the tools you have, not necessarily making everything. So anyway, somebody like Coulter, who spent a lot of time in a remote setting, probably has a lot of ingenuity, has had to, basically live off of a basic set of items. Hypothetically, I don't actually know what his island looked like, or what his remote living situation was, but that could be really good preparation. He doesn't talk about it in his bio much, but I imagine he had to hunt and fish, so he could be a real contender. I'll be enjoying watching him, and I think he could definitely do really well. He also brought a tarp as one of his items, which I think is an interesting choice. Interesting because I think it could be a good choice, and you get one provided for your gear, and this will be an extra one that he's bringing that I'll be curious to see what he's doing with, and I don't think it's a bad choice at all. In hindsight, on my season, had I known I was going to get a moose, for sure a tarp would have been nice because I could have covered all the meat with a tarp and I wouldn't have had birds and critters getting into it without me hearing it because it would climb, it would have made a loud noise anytime they tried to climb in there. So anyway, I like the choices and I look forward to seeing him. Next we have Jordan Bell, and he also spent time trapping beaver, deer hunting, bird hunting in Maine. So I think trapping is, I know for me it was a valuable experience to have because, it's just you learn the behavior of animals and you learn the nuances of how to catch them. So I think it can be a really useful skill that goes a little bit beyond just the hunting and fishing. It's the third leg of the tripod there of food provision. So it's good he has that experience. He sounds like he should be really capable. Also spent a lot of time in Alaska journeying around this and that. So I think in general they've done a good job casting. It'll be another fun guy to watch. He did bring a food ration, so he's counting on probably using that to get set up while he figures out his spot, and that's not a bad thing. Then we have Matt Corradino, and he's a primitive skills instructor on the Virgin Islands. So he's definitely going to a different environment than he's familiar with. I bet you he's awesome at what he does, where he does it. I'm curious if Chilco Lake won't be more different than he expects because I think he's one of the guys that didn't bring a ferro rod. So I know for Nathan on my season, it was really tough not having a ferro rod. He was fortunate to have found a piece of cedar that allowed him to get a fire going. But even then, I think you just have to wake up all the time, keep your fire going. It's just much more. It's another layer of stress to add on to your situation that you have to be worried about your fire going out. And I'm not sure. Maybe the wood in BC there on the coast is better for starting a fire than up in the Arctic, but I'm not sure if the climate's gonna be pretty wet. So I don't know if that's a whole extra layer of stress he's gonna have. He brought interest. So it's always fun when people do different things because you start to get in ruts, and then usually the people who do well are somebody that's gonna think outside the box. But he is bringing in interesting items. He's the guy that brought the water bottle. So that'll be interesting. I wonder why exactly. But I always like to see people try new things. There's there's even the guy, he's probably going to comment below, the guy that goes on every Alone video and says, you guys should build nets and just fish with nets and da-da-da-da. And he always, telling everyone they're an idiot. Well, I would find him very interesting to go on the show because he's thinking outside the box and yeah, how I'd like to see it. So I don't know. Anyway, we get to see Matt and see how he uses his no axe or no multi-tool and no ferro rod and a water bottle. And I want to see a strategy. So I'm looking forward to it. Then a person I've heard of, but I don't know her, is Theresa Camper. And I think I've heard, I know that some of the people that have been on Alone before know her. So she's obviously very smart, really skilled, primitive survival expert, in that she can make all the things in the woods that you would need. Cordage, amazing hide tanner, and she's got all those primitive skills down. She also doesn't have an axe or a multi-tool. That's interesting. So this is like she has a skill set that is beyond most people as far as the primitive skills, hide tanning, stone tools, making cordage, all that stuff. I often wonder how much those skills apply on alone as as foundational skills. Like in my opinion, I like to share my opinion. It's not doesn't mean anything. The foundational skills for alone are your mental, toughness, and that anybody could have. It's just you just see as you go, and not just toughness, but your mental, your ingenuity, your adaptability, uh, resilience, the things I talk about. But I'm also curious. Oh, I also think as a foundational skill, your skills need to be like hunting and fishing, food provision. We talked about trapping a little bit earlier. I don't know. I don't know what, she could be great at those things. I don't know what level of skill she has on the food provision aspect because it's, again, it's she's like, it seems like would be one of the most valuable members in a small tribe, right? Because she knows so much about the outdoors living, but you gotta get the game to get the hide on alone. So I wonder, she just doesn't talk about her hunting as much. So we'll see. I hope we get to see her make some awesome stuff. I think she, again, is very intelligent and skilled and educated, so it'll be fun to watch her. Then we have Michelle Finn, who is another Maine to Alaska transplant and then back to Maine. And something in her look, I don't know her, but something in her look tells me she's very determined and tough. And she probably has the skills to go. I like her items, and she's not big, so, and the same goes for Theresa above, that don't have a lot of extra weight to lose, it looks like. All the women this season, same with Rose, who we'll get to later. But yeah, so the pressure's gonna be on them, and I hope each of them do well, and wish each of them the best. So, oh no, something about Michelle tells me she's particularly tough and resilient. I don't know why. That's just like with all these things, they're total guesses. But I want to watch her too. Then we got Tim Madsen. And for some reason, when I first looked over the profiles, I missed Tim. But I like him as a person cast on the show because he's a big game hunter, bow hunter, and that's just, like I said before, one of those foundational skills that you almost have to do well on the show. You don't want, and I think this has been the case a lot of times, but you don't want your first bow hunting experience to be on alone because there's so much to learn that, there's a good chance you'll have some hard lessons while you're on the show, which would have been nice to get out of the way ahead of time. So I'm sure Tim's been through a lot of those tough misses, and it's all those little things like you shot the animal but you didn't wait long enough, so you went up to it and it jumped up and ran away and you never found it, and all those things you don't want to be learning on alone. He's already learned. He's born in Montana, spent a lot of time in Wyoming. I like him. I'll look forward to watching him. He's also got the pressure of all his oil rig buddies. Probably he can't quit when you got all those guys watching. You'll never hear the end of it. But I don't know if he actually traditionally bow hunts. There's a difference between using your compound bow and a traditional bow. It just makes it a lot harder. But I'm sure he's. I'm looking forward to watching. He's one of the types of people that I don't think are cast enough on alone that I'd like to see cast more, which are just like your backwoods hunter fisher guys, and so I think by being that we'll get a different taste. That alone casts heavily on the out, and I guess you'd call it ancestral skills, community. They cast out of that community very heavily, skills gatherings, things like that. What you don't see as much of are just like the backcountry hunter fisher guys that, kind of middle of America type folks. So it'll be fun to see Tim Madsen. I think that's a good guy to throw in the mix. Then we have Roseanne Moore. I like her because I like her kind of skill set also. She's also, like Tim, a big game hunter and a skilled one at that. She's got a lot of animals with her bow. Again, invaluable experience that she has before going on alone, so she doesn't have to learn on the fly on the food provision front. She's done fishing, trapping, hunting. So I think, again, she's got those foundational skills. I also feel like Michelle, she has that look where she's tough. I think she's going to be really tough. And I don't, again, like with Tim, I also don't know if she's traditionally bow hunted or just compound bow hunted. That's a big, there's a learning curve there, but that's the case with most folks on the show. So I think she'll do well, and again, there's no getting past the fact that she's not big though, and so it really does put the pressure on the food acquisition, which can be tough out there, and it's made slightly tougher by whatever specific regulations. Every place the show has been has its own regulations, so it's not like you can just shoot anything you see or get it by any means necessary. So puts a little handicap on the food provision when you are not heavy already. That's an extra toughness, but I want to see Rose do well. Then we got Biko, right, who he just looks like a really fun guy to watch, and the little bit I've interacted with him on the internet leading up to the show here, he seems like a really fun guy, cool guy. And now he, for place with, if it has tight regulations, hunting and fishing, he's got the body style to go. He was able to put on a bunch of extra weight before he went in, and he's obviously just a super fun dude with a good personality, so somebody that is going to be a lot of fun to have on the show, and it's going to add a lot. So congratulations on the twins, Biko. I look forward to watching you out there. And then we get to the final two. We got Nate Weber, who probably the guy I'll be going for, just because he's the guy I know, although I don't personally know him. I've talked to him on the phone and such, but my brother on Alone the Beast spent 30 days with him in the bush up there in the Northwest Territories, and one thing I know about Nate is he's going to be really tough, really ingenious. I think he's a person with the mental game that's rock solid. And he's very skilled because he's, a high-level SEER instructor, tons of military experience, and other experience like Alone the Beast. So he's one of the few people I know that have made made their own cordage, used the gorge hook, and caught a big old lake trout up there. I know that wasn't easy, and he's got a lot of experience, and he's got a lot of ingenuity. He's actually going to join us this summer for a couple weeks, teaching some courses in the wilderness. So I'm really excited, and even though I don't know him personally, I already consider him a friend, and so I'll be pulling for him out there. So I don't know how much he hunts and fishes. He probably does a fair bit, but I don't know. So there's that big unknown, and if there's any disadvantage he has, it's that he is really muscular and doesn't have a lot of extra weight, and that muscle actually burns the weight that you already don't have faster than if you were just a thin dude. So metabolically he could be at a disadvantage, but I'm going to be watching him and pulling for him, and he took out the right axe. He's got the axe that I made, and it's going to be fun seeing that thing out there in action. So go Nate. And then finally we have Clay Hayes, and an interesting note about Clay is he is one of only 2 people I've ever written that I don't know that I was like, hey, you should get on Alone, because so I feel like Clay is casting done right for Alone, because I've written him, and some of you might know of Aaron Snyder, who's does the Kafaru cast. He runs the company Kafaru, but he's a big backpacking outdoors hunter, traditional hunter. And I think those are skills that translate really well onto Alone. Clay's the same. Clay's a long-time traditional hunter. He fishes. He's got a particular level of, that outdoor country ingenuity that again, I don't see it as much of on Alone. So every time I see it, I'm like, oh, he's going to be good. And, Clay, the thing about him, he puts out a lot of videos. He's got a YouTube channel that's big. And so there's more to know about him than a lot of the other guys. But that said, the things that I do know, just the few videos I watched of his months and months back, I was like, oh, this guy would be really good on Alone. And I reached out to him randomly on Instagram. I was like, hey, you should apply for Alone. Little did I know he was already on it. But it just goes to show that I think he will do really well. He's got long-term traditional bow hunting experiences, which is invaluable. He's got, I know he's fishing and foraging and doing all those things all the time. So if I had to put my money on it, I'd put it on Clay. I really like his skill set for Alone, and we'll see what happens. He's also, one of the nice things about his hunting experience that is going to be good is that he lives in North Idaho, so he gets a lot of this big game hunting and this and that, but he's also spent a lot of time in the Florida and places like that where you can hunt pigs and or just lots of whitetail. And you know what that does, it just racks up your hunting experience exponentially. Somebody that lives in one of these western states and is kind of just living there all the time, you get 1 deer a year, 1 elk a year, 1 bear a year, but you get down in those southern states where they have tons of whitetail and tons of hogs, you can get, 6 whitetail a year and countless hogs, and it racks up your experience. So that said, between that and his, I've seen him in the past, before Alone, I think, but it looks like he has some old videos of him putting up snares and doing things like this and that. I just think he'll do really well. He's also not big, though, not a lot of extra weight, but, contrary to, I guess, Nate, he's not as, jacked and muscular, so his metabolism might be okay out there. So those are a few of my thoughts. Let me see if I had any other notes. I just think with amongst the people that have the mental ability, in my opinion on the show, again, it comes down to food provision with the gear provided, which is not no gear, so it's not like completely primitive stone tools, things like that, and it's not gun hunting or even compound bow hunting. It's traditional gear, with some equipment. The stuff they give you could be enough to survive. You're not there with nothing. And so I think, I think it's why, like I said at the start, people that have lived in remote situations before where they haven't purposely limited themselves to no tools, but they've had to improvise and adapt, overcome. I think those people have an advantage. That's why living with the natives was good, because for preparation for the show, because you're using a similar toolkit to what you get on Alone. Not nothing, but not everything. so anyway, that's my 10% prediction, and I look forward to seeing everybody on there, and good luck to everybody, and I'm going to be watching and pulling for everyone. Really just want everyone to do their best and have their most positive experience they can. I hope everybody's edits are good and they feel like they get to see an honest portrayal of their experience, and pulling for all of you. So cheers, thanks for watching.